joining me today on the Capital Show, General Mike Flynn. General, you are, it's a truly honor to have you on my program. I have the privilege to know you for many years. Your distinguished service to the United States is well known and widely respected. So I really appreciate your presence today. And I want to ask you first about the first 100 days of President Trump. How do you assess this period of time?
Well, first of all, I think that the president has done quite a bit of actions that have led to a complete sort of shift in the way that the country was going, in a sort of very lethargic way under Biden. We were really going over the cliff with the Biden administration, the previous administration. I mean, over the cliff. We might have gone over the cliff. And so what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to, help us climb back up out of this hole that we're in. Mm-hmm. So a lot of executive orders. I give the president, high grades for everything that he's done. I would say, though, that one of the areas that I'm very concerned about is I think that the number of deportations has to increase quite a bit. That we're not at the numbers that we need to, in order to get out the numbers that came in, mm-hmm. and to lower the problems in our country, like the crime problems, the massive drug smuggling that's going on. All those, we need to get the deportations up by probably numbers that equal about, maybe 3 or 4 times a month. So right now, last number I was told was last week, and I could be a little bit off, but that we've deported about 120,000. He needs to be doing like 250,000 a month.
We're gonna go in details about this point, but
okay. Well, I'm just going over a couple of things, Maria. Because you asked me about 100 days. The second thing is foreign policy. Foreign policy. We're still in the war in Ukraine. We're still in the war in the Middle East. We have the Chinese right here in the United States of America. We have the Chinese trying to take over the Panama Canal. We have issues out in the Asia Pacific theater of operations with Taiwan, with South Korea, with Japan, with Indonesia, with Australia. I mean, there are all kinds of activities, that are going on domestically, foreign and internationally that have to be dealt with, and we don't have the people in place yet. I'm really concerned. If there's a big concern that I have of the first 100+ days now, is that we don't have the right people in place, yet to be able to move the president's agenda forward. And it doesn't. A couple of interviews on Fox News or on some of these other networks aren't going to move the needle. What moves the needle is action. Action can only be done by strong leaders who are courageous, who are willing to stand up for the president's agenda and fight through these attacks that he's constantly getting. Yeah. And really, this business about the lawfare that is happening in the United States with these judges who are delaying every single decision that the president makes. That has to end. The judges aren't going to stop. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court either needs to do something, or the president of the United States just needs to simply, in some cases, if it's unconstitutional, just continue to move forward, continue to do the job that you said you were going to do, that the American people said that they wanted you to do, and let the process work its way through the courts, because it's going to end up getting thrown back in the faces of these lower courts who are making unconstitutional decisions.
Yeah. General, talking about, you said it's probably people put the blame on not only Biden, it's go back to Obama era. So how do you see that the damage was since then? So what were the challenges now? And this is my first, I want to know your impression about the Obama era, because I think that that's
so Obama, and I apologize for, I thought you were done. Obama came into to the United States of America as the president of the United States for 2 terms to, like he said, to fundamentally transform America. I mean, Obama is a Marxist. Okay, so Obama brought in Marxism into the United States political system. And, the Democrat, quote unquote, Democrat Party has really become a party of socialism, communism, and Marxism. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So it is filled. The ranks are filled by people who adhere to those principles. So that's what Obama did. Under Obama, the skyrocketing of illegals went through the roof.
Yeah.
The skyrocketing of debt, our debt doubled. Obama, and he appointed me twice into key jobs, and I did those jobs very well, very effectively. But I stood up for myself because I wasn't going to lie, because they wanted me to lie about the enemies that we were facing around the world. And I wasn't going to do that. So I went sideways with the Obama administration. I went sideways with Obama. I went sideways with Jim Clapper, John Brennan, a guy named Mike Vickers, who's a little known guy. All these guys they all need to be investigated, and probably, some or all need to be indicted. But Obama, then Obama, after the election of Trump, then Obama starts to undermine, and basically a group of them committed conspiracy to undermine a duly elected president of the United States, and that was Russiagate. So people need to be held accountable for this. That's Obama's legacy. What Obama's legacy is he did nothing to strengthen this country. He did everything to undermine it and to destroy it. And all they did with Biden was they stole an election in 2020, and clearly rigged. Clearly a rigged election. And we had a man in the White House who we now know, and nobody wanted to admit then, although we said it, nobody wanted to admit then that the man had problems with his mental faculties, and he had the early stages of dementia. And now you don't even see Biden out anymore because he can't, right? I mean, these are not things I'm making up because I read about them on the internet. These are facts that we see playing out in front of us every single day. So Trump has a little bit of time. He's in a very powerful position, not only as president of the United States, but he's in a position that the American people said, we want you to fix these problems. Yeah. We want you to hold people accountable. We want you to get us out of these never-ending wars. We want you to fix our economy. We want you to get the crime rates in our country down. We want you to get these illegals out. Those are all big tasks. And I feel like today, sitting here, Maria, talking to you, I feel like we're behind the power curve. And a lot of it has to do with people, primarily, number one, people. The second thing are the processes. In order to achieve those, processes matter. I'm not a guy for bureaucracies, but you got to have processes to execute operations, to execute decision making. So if the president says, I want the deportation campaign to kick up into high gear, then what does that mean? Well, to me, that means about, just in terms of a number, that means about 250,000 a month. So if we're going to do that, opening up a prison in California ain't going to cut it. We've got to have processes, so people, processes, and then the last thing, Maria, are the resources. So the resources have got to be brought to bear, and the resources come out of the Department of Homeland Security. They come out of the Department of Defense, and they frankly come out of the national security state, which means like the intelligence community. Maybe you've got some other, there's some other elements and agencies and activities that can help you. But so people, first and foremost, get the people in place, get the people that you need in place. The processes are there, tighten them up, and then the resources got to be brought to bear to be able to execute the mission that the people of this country, the United States of America, demand.
Yeah. Many Americans are relieved when they saw President Trump coming to the White House. Now, after the withdrawal or the removing of Mike Waltz, your name popped up, or is there any plans so we can see you again, the National Security Advisor?
I don't know. I mean, it's up to the president, and I've said I'm always, I'll always serve. I mean, I think now even more so, but. We'll see. We'll have to see what the president wants to do. I mean, he knows, that I've always said that I'm always available and I'm ready, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, you talked about holding people accountable, and you tweeted recently about the importance of reinstating whistleblowers who were dismissed in the aftermath of January 6th. How do you
Right.
believe such a process can be implemented fairly and efficiently?
Yeah, well, first of all these people that got thrown out of their jobs, some of them have been brought back in, I understand, but not all of them.
Mm.
And so yeah, there have to be, again, I'm a person who looks at a problem and says, okay, what's the most effective way to solve it? And look at the various options to solve it. And whistleblowers in different agencies and organizations and activities, right? So whistleblowers, and I know of many of them that are still sitting on the sidelines that would be very effective if they were brought back in. For example, the entire COVID disaster where we pushed close to 80,000 people out of the U.S. Department of Defense, out of the military. You know, Pete Hegseth recently made some very strong comments about that. But now he's struggling inside of the his own inner office to get his chief of staff and his inner circle back on board. But there should be a task force set up in the Department of Defense, as an example, on this case, that brings in a couple of these senior whistleblowers, basically puts them into a position where they're reporting directly to the Secretary of Defense with a set of objectives to then monitor and manage whether or not these 80,000 people want to come back in. How do we, there's some clearly they got to be recompensated because so many of them lost their rank, they lost their privileges, and they didn't do anything wrong other than say, look, I'm not going to take this jab because it's going to kill me. And guess what? It's exactly what it was doing. So it was killing people. That's just one aspect. But I know of a lot of other people that want to come back into the government, are ready to go back in the government, would absolutely be on Team America and follow the America First agenda for the president, are more than qualified. They're more qualified than I am. And they're ready to go to work. Nobody's reaching out to them. So there's got to be a personnel task force created over in the White House, clearly, because the numbers of ambassadors that we don't have in place, other positions that we don't have in place right now. We're not, back in the first couple of days here. We're into the fourth month now, and time is running out.
General, what is blocking this procedure to happen and to be executed?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I really can't say other than, it's people that are responsible for it. If they haven't organized, like one person, let's just say one person inside of the White House who's responsible for all the hiring actions over in the Department of Defense is probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea. You need small task forces that come together, and just like they started to do during the transition, where there was a lot of activity down at Mar-a-Lago, and they were looking at all these people, that can't stop. You have to continue that, and you got to bring these people together and create this task forces if necessary for each department. Yeah. Put them over there in the executive office, the Eisenhower Executive Office building, and let's go to work. And let's do the right vetting. Let's do the right hiring. Let's do the phone calls. I mean, I have people, I just got off the phone call. That's why I was running late coming in here. I just got off the phone of somebody who's eminently qualified for a couple of really critical jobs. And they've been interviewed. They were interviewed down at Mar-a-Lago months ago, and nobody's ever reached out to them. Yeah. And that happened to me over the weekend. So, I'm not being critical of the people that are there. I'm being critical that the process is not clear.
Slow. It's maybe slow. General, a brief but symbolic. Let's talk about foreign affairs. A symbolic moment between President Trump and Zelensky inside the Basilica of St. Peter in Rome, Vatican. So during the Pope's funeral, can you tell us your point of view about how to end this war and what is the significance of this encounter?
Yeah, well, I think that encounter was, however the conversation went. I'm sure, Trump will say what he wants to say about it. Same with Zelensky, and they'll probably be 180 degrees apart. When Zelensky goes back, as he went back home to Ukraine, he's going to say how tough he was against the president of the United States, and Trump's going to say whatever he wants to say about what he's doing to move the needle forward with trying to end this war and end the killing. But, the United States of America and first of all, we have to end the war in Ukraine. We have to end it. We cannot continue this war. There's got to be a way. Zelensky is not the guy to lead this country. That is very clear. It's very clear. He's a horrific leader. He's not somebody who's capable. He's a completely corrupt person. We know of the corruption inside of Ukraine. We know about it. This is not a theoretical argument, Maria. This is a real thing. We know how much money we've given them. There is no way to say that, we've given them $500 billion and there's nothing to show for it. I don't care what people say about Putin or Russia. Russia has no capability other than with their nuclear forces to attack across the plains of Europe and the clowns in NATO, which, I would love to go sit at a NATO ministerial. I'd love to go there and tell them, you people don't know what you're talking about. Some of those countries didn't pay a dime for their security for 50 years, right? And now they want the United States of America to continue to foot the bill. And now we want the U.S. to foot the bill for Ukraine. You know what? If Europe wants Ukraine and they want war in Europe, be my guest. Take whatever you want to take and do it. We have got to stop the bleeding in Ukraine. There's going to be concessions, and this is the harshness of warfare. Okay, warfare. You have winners and you have losers. There is no win-win here. Okay, there's no win-win for Ukraine, and especially for Ukraine, especially with Zelensky in charge, because he has destroyed this country. He has allowed his country to be destroyed. Frankly, I would say that under the Obama administration, because I was there when some of those decisions were made, and clearly under the Biden administration, they have enabled these political fools inside of Ukraine to be able to do these things. Russia is going to have to be put on the hot spot. I mean, there's some things that can be done, but we have to come to a set of concessions and peace to stop the killing and have a long-term view and agreement about how we're going to deal with the issues of achieving peace in Eastern Europe for a long time. Now, what does a long time mean? Maybe it's for 10 years. Maybe it's for 30 years. Maybe it's for another century. But because we had peace for a while, right? We had peace for a while after the end of the Cold War and blah, blah, blah. The Budapest Accords, all these different things. And then what happens is you have lousy leaders that come in and you have, policies, and frankly, under the Obama administration, horrific policies that led to a lot of this stuff. So, you're talking to somebody, Maria, who knows too much about this stuff.
Yeah, I know very well.
And if we don't get this right, and I'm not, if I sound like I'm raising my voice with you, it is because I'm upset about it, but I'm not emotional about it. I'm matter of fact. If we don't get the right people in the conversations. These people that are around Trump that want to continue to go to war, that want to continue to fund the war, fools. This is ridiculous. We will lose. I'll say this again. In warfare, there's no win-win.
So this is lead me to ask you about Iran and the negotiation with Iran. So there is this channel. Do you think that is effective? The current negotiation going on in Oman?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So yeah, I mean, I'm watching all this, and again, the Iranian regime still considers the United States as the great Satan. Okay, they are still a state sponsor of terrorism. This is the Iranian regime.
Yeah.
So if we're going to deal with and they can, they have smart people in the various foreign ministers and the people that are going in and out of Europe and all this, and these guys that sit at these big tables, but. This is not about win-win. This is not about finding a win for the Iranian regime. Hey, look at what the Houthis, we did major attacks. We, the United States of America, did major attacks against the Houthis over the last month. Yeah. I mean, massive attacks. And look at what the Houthis just pulled off into Israel over this weekend. I mean, So
Gorian
whatever,
Airport. Yeah.
and they almost took out one of our U.S. aircraft carriers out in the Red Sea, okay, about a week ago. So the Houthis aren't destroyed. So Iran continues to provide, to sponsor them. Iran continues to fuel the, Hamas. They continue to fuel Hezbollah. The Iranian regime, I would love to tell the people of Iran, look, you know what? It's going to take sacrifice. It's just like in our country, the United States of America, people have sacrificed over long, long periods of time. And we really just sacrificed quite a bit. And this past 4 years under the Biden regime, the people of Iran are in a different place. But the people of Iran, if this is how they want to continue to live under this regime, be my guest. Okay, be my guest. But there's going to require, if they don't want the regime that's in there now, there's going to require sacrifice. That's internal, folks. That's internal for the Iranian.
Internal, but General, what is the difference between JCPOA and the negotiations that is happening right now?
The difference between what? That you said, I missed that.
The agreement that President Obama made with Iran. What is the difference? This is a terrorist.
Yeah, no, that agreement. I've been very public about it. I've testified to Congress. I stood in front of the White House press corps and in front of the international community and said what I felt about Iran. So that was the worst. The Obama administration was the worst administration we've had to date by far. Yeah. Biden, only, added to more fuel to the fire of what Obama started, particularly with Iran. But the people of Iran have to decide. And if the people of Iran, so, does that mean that that we want to go to war in Iran? No, I am not anti-war, Maria. I'm anti-stupid war. This would be a stupid war for the United States to get involved in. And I know that there's a lot of talk about the Israelis trying to drag, the U.S. into war. So we're big boys and girls here, sorry.
Yeah, you're a general. You're supposed to be, how to conduct wars, but you are anti-wars, and you think that military attack on Iran will bring to nothing, will bring to more chaos?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so it'll destroy some command and control sites. It might destroy some of their, their various infrastructure. I mean, but what does it do? Is there something going on inside of Iran where the people are going to rise up against the regime? And maybe that's what needs to happen. I'm just sitting here as a guy looking at a country that is brutally dictated by a very small group of people, and they continue to use the IRGC to do so, and they're brutalized, they're murdered, they are brutalized by a harsh regime, and they have no freedoms. The people over there have no freedoms. But actually, you can say the same thing for much of the Middle East. It's just a little bit different tenor, or tone, right? In Iran, it's much different. I mean, these poor people over there. But you know what? At a certain point in time, there's got to be somebody, a leader from some level that stands up and says, enough is enough.
What about the Shah sons that he lives in the U.S.? Does he got the support from?
No idea. But if he lives in the U.S., and I know these people, and I've met them actually over the years. I met them over the years, Maria, and I'm, so. You can't fight, the regime from Paris or Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
You've got to fight the regime from, Qom or Tehran or wherever,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so that's just human nature. And I'm not asking for, a revolt. What I'm just saying is that, look, the United States of America, we have our own challenges, and the people of the United States of America want change. They voted for a president in a very big, huge vote. He won by a gigantic mandate. A second term, which was I call it a kind of an in-between term, right? He's been brutalized. He's been brutally attacked, and he still is. And he needs help. But the help that he needs is not to try to get dragged by the nose back into another war in the Middle East that we don't need. We don't need.
Yeah.
I don't mind us helping partners and allies. I don't mind that. And I'll tell you, from an intelligence standpoint, because I can clearly speak to this, with my background, from an intelligence standpoint, the intelligence community is doing a horrible job of predicting and projecting what is actually occurring. I mean, because we've lost sight of our capabilities, and you can't recreate these things overnight. So that's why, like a guy like me, who's outside right now, I have extraordinary insight because people call me up and go, "Hey, do you realize what is going on?" I mean, and I say, "Well, why aren't you, how come you're not talking to the CIA?" Or we don't trust them. We don't trust them. So this is where the world is at right now. Is the world is in a place where the United States of America must fix its home right now. We have got to fix our home. Our home is in disrepair because of not only 4 years of Biden, but the previous 8 years, and then they beat up Trump for 4 years. So the United States of America is in a state of disrepair, and I can go through the categories from, the violence to the crime to the MS-13s to the illegals, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. We're in a state of disrepair. We have to fix our home, and we've got to fix it quickly. And our debt is horrific. So that's all this.
America first, let's say.
That's what America first is about. It's not America alone. It's not America by ourselves. It's America first, fix our home. Yeah. At the same time, we can juggle a couple of these foreign policy issues because we're still intellectually and financially capable of doing some of these, but it's getting difficult. And when all these other countries around the world continue to take money from the United States of America, and frankly, like Trump has said, that's our fault. We're stupid for giving them money. They'll take it. If we're going to give it to them, sure. Take it, right? Right? To all these countries that have been taking money, have been ripping us off, right?
What do you think?
We're stupid for giving it to them.
Yeah. What do you think about the main topics that will be on the table for Trump visit to Saudi Arabia and his meeting with Mohammed bin Salman? What is this visit will mean for the relationship between Saudi Arabia, USA, UAE, and the Gulf states who have lots of money?
Yeah. I think at the top of every agenda is China. Has to be the top of every bilateral or multilateral discussion has to be, where are they at with China? Because the Chinese are coming into the region, and I know this, they're coming into the region with bags of money and bribes. That's how they operate. That's their way of life. Bags of money and bribes. And they don't care about, a long-term relationship, right? They want a long-term relationship that benefits them. And they come in with bags of money and bribes. So there's government officials in all these governments, right? And I'll say right now that we have the same problem right here in the United States. So I'm not like throwing a stone at somebody's glass house, knowing that I live in one. So we have corruption in our government as well. People taking bags of money and other benefits. But China has to be at the top of the list. And then the other thing is we've got to figure out how the Arab community needs to deal with the Palestinian issue, and needs to deal with these people. Why is it that no other country is willing to take these people? I know for a fact, because I've talked to some of the leaders, that there are leaders in Libya that are willing to take some of the Palestinians in Libya.
General, why they have to take them since they have their land, their homes?
They don't have land. So that's got to stop. See, so this is a falsehood. This is a falsehood, and it's something that people need to go back and look at the history of the region. Okay. Look and examine the history of the region. Okay. And if there has been, and so let's take that away from the argument right now. Yeah. There have been billions and billions of dollars that went into Arafat and then his cronies, who are still, many of them are there, billions, tens of billions of dollars. And the Gaza Strip is a disaster. It's like a massive, and never mind what the destruction from the war, but it's always been like one big poverty town, right? One big poverty section. Where is that money going? All these son of a guns are living in Paris. They're living in big houses. They got their own planes. They got yachts. I'm sick of it.
How much?
The American people are sick of it. And I'm telling you, if this is where we're at. So if you hear it in my voice, Maria, your audience, I want your audience to know that I'm a guy on the outside, okay? But
Yeah.
I'm telling you that the American people we are a great country. We have very, very talented people. We have a lot of wealth in the ground here in this country and in the minds of the American people, right? That love this country and want to move this country forward.
Yeah.
And we, my message to our adversaries is be very careful thinking that the United States of America is on its last legs, because I've heard this. I've heard this. Okay.
Yeah, Lebanon, as like our president in Lebanon, sent.
I'm sorry, Maria. I got like 5 minutes.
Yeah, Lebanese president sent a very clear message to Hamas as a terrorist origin to stop her activity in Lebanon as well. How can you assess the work of some countries, like they're supposed to be allies to America, like Qatar? They're still funding terrorism. Can you tell us your approach? How we can stop and we can collaborate with other countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE to fight terrorism in the region?
We've been doing this for 25 years now.
Yeah.
We've got all kinds of cooperation agreements. And there's been some tactical successes over the years. We can't kill our way out of this problem. Can't kill our way out of it. And I'm sick and tired of when somebody goes, well, we killed the leader of this, we killed the leader of that. Another guy's going to rise up. Another leader's going to show up. I mean, it happens all the time. So
the thing that
the lie about the Palestinian problem being an Israeli problem, that is the lie. It is a lie. And the Arab community, the Arab world, must stop lying about it.
Yeah.
And their cohorts, many of them are in London, Paris. We have to come to grips with this. There is no two-state solution. There is no two-state solution. It is a lie.
This is behind.
It has to end, because in the Arab world, if the Arab world wants to continue to have just an absolute disastrous, mess inside the Middle East, and live in a place where like nobody's, there's no freedom of speech, there's no freedom of movement. There is women are very much restricted. I mean, I don't want to tell the Saudis or any of these other countries that they have to be, democratic, because that they don't live by those rules. But I want them to understand that we are not going to be the bank. The United States of America is not going to be the bank nor the resource provider any longer for these. I mean, I would love to say that to them. And in fact, I think that needs to be said, because, you get in there and you shake hands and you have all of the protocol stuff, but nothing changes. Nothing changes. And the reason why it doesn't change is because the Arab community, and now I'm talking to all the Arab leaders, I hope they all listen, from, all of them, every single one of them, every single one of the Arab leaders that are in the various countries, from El Sisi to MBS, MBZ, all of them. All of them.
Yeah.
Iraq, the prime minister, the Jordanian king, they all have to start to figure out how do they work together. They are the worst when it comes to working together. The worst. If I sat them down in a meeting, a little conference table, I would say, look, guys, I'm walking out of this room. You figure out what your solutions are going to be in the Middle East. Okay. And Israel's trying to live, an existence like the Jews are not. They're trying to live in a place where generally it's not bad. I mean, I've been to Israel plenty of times. I've been to every single country in that region. Okay. Every single country in that region, every single one.
Have you been to Lebanon?
Huh?
Have you been to Lebanon?
Absolutely. I've been to Lebanon. Every single country. I've been to every single one in that region. And I'm telling you that when you are able to walk around and you are able to do things freely without anybody, following you. I mean, the only place that I've ever been able to do that is in Israel.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, every other place I felt like I had to have a security. I had to have, because it was, and the times have actually gotten worse. So the Arab leaders, I don't care how wealthy they are, they don't. What they have to do is they have to sit down and say, okay, how do we want the future of the trans region, not the Sahel, but not the Sahel, but the the region really of the northern part of the Middle East, the parts of Egypt, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Syria, it's actually wider. It goes wider. It goes to Eastern Africa. It goes all the way over to, the Persian Empire, right? How do we want to function? And they just never seem to get along. And why is that?
They won't.
Why is that?
But they,
you know what? And so here's another question for them. And I would do this if I was in a room with them. I would ask them, and I would go around the table and I'd say, tell me what is the answer to that question. Why is it that you guys can't get along with them? And I would say, nope, shut up to the rest of them. Answer the question. I'd go around the room if I was the United States of America. And if they, and it's because why? Because they have different opinions about how, the Arab world needs to move. Okay, fine. If that's how you're going to do it, if that's what you're going to do, then we're talking to ourselves here instead of talking with each other and trying to develop solutions to solve these massive problems. The Middle East has been at war. I mean, centuries. Yeah. Centuries. And so let me put a little bit more fine point on that. Why? Okay. Is there a philosophy? Is there an underlying philosophy that drives how people think? And I've been on very public on Sky News Arabia, and even I think I even said it on Al Jazeera about, the when you think about Islam, okay, because everybody goes, oh, Islam, I'm an Islamophobe, okay? Now I'm whatever. I'm done. I'm done with the name calling, okay? The people have to realize, and I got to finish here, because I got to go.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, quick.
What is your message to the Lebanese people who are now facing like a new era?
Get out. You know what it is? The people of Lebanon, if nothing changes, then you might have to think about a relocation. Okay, just like people in the United States. I'm sorry. I'm being very honest. Just like people in the United States of America are relocating to other safer, more protected, more environmentally or more where they can live the American dream. They're moving out of California. They're moving out of Michigan. They're moving into places that matter, that where they feel like their families can go. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for especially the Christian community in Lebanon.
Lebanese people will never leave their country to a terrorist organization named Hezbollah. So they will have they have to fight till the end.
Yeah. And so Hezbollah has probably still, even though the leadership's been decimated, but they got new leaders. They got new leaders just because they got new leaders. And and Lebanon has been at war Maria, since I entered the military back in the early 1980s.
Yeah.
Okay.
7 to 4 it started.
Yeah. And I studied. That was one of the first few battles that I studied when I began studying warfare. Was the battles in Lebanon. Hezbollah is an army, and it's fueled by billions of dollars. And frankly, the United States of America is probably paying for it. No, because we give the money to Iran, and Iran gives the money to Hezbollah, weapons, and et cetera, et cetera.
Maybe during Obama and Biden, but Trump.
No, but it goes back. It goes back to every single administration, because most administrations, Maria, don't realize, a Republican administration comes in, they don't realize that they're not paying attention to the movement of money and to the movement of weapon systems, and how the United States of America is probably involved in some of those things, because it's being done by, frankly, subversive elements in our own government.
Yeah, this is so sad. General Flynn, I know you have like another appointment. Thank you so much. It was a real privilege having you, and thank you for your service, your candor. You're amazing. And
thank you, Maria. Anytime. And God bless the people of Lebanon. I mean, I want them to thrive and to live, with their families, and to do all the things that all of us want to do. But right now, we are in a state of crisis globally. And Lebanon, could be this most beautiful, like Beirut. Oh my God. Lebanon is this beautiful, beautiful country on the Eastern Mediterranean. And my God, it could thrive so much, but there's so much, and it's evil. It's pure evil. And the Iranian regime is filled with evil people who want nothing more to do than to kill. And they don't want to live in peace. If they wanted to live in peace, they would stop the killing. They don't want to live in peace. That's why I say, if you're there, sorry, I'm sorry. I wish that we could do more, but bottom line is people, God helps those who help themselves. And I'll finish with that.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much for your commitment to truth. Thank you, General.
All right. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.